The 4th Infantry Division, as we know it today, served the country for the first time during World War I in support of both our French and British allies. In World War II, the 4th was the first to storm the beaches on the Normandy coast. The 4th served in Vietnam as early as 1966 and has performed bravely throughout the Mideast. It was the 4th who captured Saddam Hussein in Iraq during Operation Red Dawn. Although the 4th was created in 1916, other infantry units have used variations of that name as far back as the Revolutionary War. During the Civil War, a prominent Union force was known as the 4th United States Infantry Regiment. At the same time, Confederate soldiers from the 4th Virginia Volunteer Infantry Regiment may have been fighting Union soldiers with the name of the 4th West Virginia Volunteer Infantry Regiment. Brother against brother, war goes on.
My name is Joe Pappone and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I got drafted along with John Patella since we were from the same neighborhood, and they gave me 2 weeks, December 2nd, to report for induction.
I'm John Patella. I was drafted into the Army December 2nd, 1965. I was living in Brooklyn. I went to Whitehall Street with a lot of guys from my old neighborhood.
My name is Will Lucas. On Saturday, November 20th, 1965, my sister woke me up. She handed me a shot of whiskey and said, "Here, drink this." I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Just drink it." Handed me a letter. Said, "Report for duty, Jessup Blair House, Silver Spring, Maryland, December 1st. From there, we went to Fort Holabird in Baltimore, and I actually lost a day because they didn't induct me till the 2nd. We hopped on a train with all the guys coming down from New York and Pennsylvania.
We went from there down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. We took, I guess you would call it an aptitude test when we were down in Fort Jackson. Unfortunately, I passed the mechanics test by 1 point over the electrician's test, which I was before I went into the Army. And they made me a mechanic. I was a 63 B20.
It was December. They set us up in tents, had to walk down the road to go to the bathroom at night. It wasn't very pleasant. They told me I was going to be a truck driver, 64 B20 heavy equipment truck driver. And I says, this is the end of the world.
After high school, I studied electronics for a year, learning how to build amplifiers and repair radios and TVs and that kind of thing. The Army quickly picked up on that and assigned me as a field radio mechanic, 31 B20.
We stayed there a week or so. Then we went to Fort Lewis, Washington State for basic training.
Letter dated 9 December 65. Our plane arrived here at Tacoma, Washington about 6:30 our time. It's a beautiful base and the weather is great. It was a great trip over here and a wonderful experience.
We did our basic training in Fort Lewis, 2 months, and my advanced infantry training was at the same place.
So they sent me to school to learn how to repair gasoline engines.
By the beginning of April, I'd shipped out TDY to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I attended a radio school through beginning of July when I returned to Fort Lewis.
From there, we went to Vietnam in July of 1966.
We took a troop carrier ship that they used in World War II, the USNS Walter H. Gordon, AP 117.
Letter home dated 7 July 66. Well, I've been on this ship a little over 24 hours now. We're still in sight of land though. We're sailing down to San Diego to pick up some Marines. We'll probably get there sometime in the morning. I sat on the deck all day today watching the scenery. It was quite cold up there. The trip so far has been pretty smooth. Just once in a while you stand up and you feel drunk or something. I've seen all kinds of huge sea nettles. The heads on some of them are 2 feet in diameter.
When we first landed in San Diego by the troop carrier, this platform came up and the strippers came out with a billboard that said who was performing. And after the act was over, naturally, they don't show everything back then. She had a robe or a cape or something on, and she reached underneath the cape, pulled off one of her pasties and threw it up, and of course I caught it and put it on my Christmas tree that first Christmas in Vietnam. After the performance was over, they had a big banner that said, "Welcome home, boys." And we all shouted over, "Oh, go to hell because we're just going over." They thought we were just returning, but we were actually heading over to Vietnam at that time.
Letter, 11 July 66. Nothing much happened today. I had my first malaria pill. I've been laying on the deck all day every day since the ship left port. I'm really getting a dark tan. My hair is getting kind of light too. I'm really enjoying myself. It's just like vacation. I borrowed a guitar last night and started playing on the back of the ship. Pretty soon we had a big crowd back there singing away. We were really having a good time until the rain came. Letter, 23 July 66. Not much going on today. We had a meeting to tell us what we can expect when we get to Nam. We should be getting to Okinawa tomorrow morning. It will be good to see land again for a change. It's also unbelievable how much traveling I've done in the past 8 months. A year ago, I was at the beach somewhere surfing. I had no idea that I'd be going in the Army and no intentions of going to Nam. It will be quite an experience to tell about. Letter, 24 July 66. Well, I woke up this morning and we were in sight of land. We finally reached Okinawa. When I first came up on deck, we were about 2 miles out. It was a beautiful sight. The water was royal blue in color, set off by the bright green island's hillsides, and it made an unforgettable sight. As we came into the bay, the water still remained blue, but lighter in color. All around you could see the coral reef which surrounds the island. We pulled out about 6 tonight, and we're on our way to Nam. 28 July 66. When I woke up this morning, we were in Da Nang. Boy, the hills along the coast looked ugly. They weren't like California or Okinawa. They were sharp, pointed peaks that were kind of scary. We sat there for about 6 hours. For those 6 hours, we were given an idea of the sounds of war. There were jets and helicopters cruising by all day. In the background, you could hear explosions all over. Once we saw where a shell landed on top of a hill. Gave off a big puff of smoke. 29 July 66. Well, we didn't get off the ship today like they told us. As a matter of fact, we didn't even go to Cameron Bay like they told us. We're going to a place called Quy Nhon. We got here this morning and have sat ever since. We'll be getting off sometime in the morning. We're going to fly to our destination from there. I think the name of the place we're going is Plieku. This place isn't as ugly as Da Nang. As a matter of fact, it looks pretty nice. It got kind of warm today, but the humidity wasn't very high. 30 July 66. Well, we finally made it. We got off the boat about 7 this morning and landed on a beach with little Vietnamese kids all over. We flew partway here to a place called Plieku. The weather is really hot. As a matter of fact, it's beautiful. It rained hard for about 15 minutes late this afternoon. By the way, there ain't no VC anywhere near where we are. No jungle either. We're right in the middle of an open field. So far I like it. I hope I can say that for the future.
Some guys flew down to our base camp, which is nothing but a mud field. Some guys convoyed down to a town called Plieku, and it was basically in the monsoon season. We set up base camp there, and my job was a truck driver, hauling supplies and whatever we had to do.
We would build things. We assisted the guys who were pouring the cement was one of the things we did. Just about every day for the first few months we were there, we were either pouring cement or digging ourselves out of the monsoon mud. The monsoon mud, I forget how long the monsoons lasted. It seemed like forever. It's like months. The mud was almost 6 feet deep. The roads were down 6 feet. As they dig the mud out, the roads would get lower and lower. Half the times you did that. Then you did guard duty at night during the monsoon. Guaranteed you had to come back wet, tired. Then the next day you would just continue working. For me, I was a half-assed electrician. I ran the power to the generators. I was a welder.
17 February 67. Well, here's the story. This will probably be the last letter I write from Plieku. In 2 days, our company is moving out somewhere northwest of Saigon. We're leaving Plieku in trucks and we'll drive to Quy Nhon. From there, we will take LSTs to Saigon. 24 February 67. Well, I should be in Hawaii today, but instead I'm in Dau Tieng, about 35 miles northwest of Saigon.
Each platoon will be assigned a different task to go out with the infantry and either clear roads or clear LZs. Unfortunately, this one time, part of our squad got ambushed where we were, and we lost 3 of our men, and about 4 or 5 guys were wounded at the time. Artillery that we had with us, 105s, fired away within our base camp, and they called 2 jet planes in right overhead, and I can see the napalm exploding right where those guys were.
I knew one day it would come to this, a sniper's hand I never did miss. I could will hot lead straight through the heart. That day in Virginia, the sun was high, ashes and smoke burned the sky. Who could tell what was on the devil's mind? The mountains tremble as over the ridge 10,000 strong approach the bridge, no turning back, and we're gonna die. Like Satan's angels with death to come, I clenched my fist, I raised my gun, then I saw the eyes of my mother's son. You wore blue and I wore gray, 2 brothers on killing day. Death would come to one in the blazing Virginia sun. A secret spot in the devil's den would be the death of the Union men. Crouching low, I held my breath. The end was near in the valley of death. Who could believe a brother of mine would walk like step in the enemy's line? My own flesh and blood laying there dead, a whip worth many straight through his head. You wore blue and I wore gray, 2 brothers on killing day. Death would come to one in the blazing Virginia sun.
While I was there, I did my job like they asked me to do. We did what we had to do. Unfortunately, we lost some men there.
Today, 45 years later, coming back from Vietnam, every day is precious, and we're all thankful to be here with our families. It's hard to explain to other people that they may be patriotic but never served in the military. And it's an experience that the camaraderie that you develop with other guys that you live with for 2 years, like your brothers. And when you think about that, that is a feeling that no one could take that away from me or any of my brothers. That we've been so close, and it's just precious. It's so rewarding.
Perry Beer 5-0. This is Heater Spike 5-0. Over. This is Perry Beer 5-0. Over. This is Heater Spike 5-0. The hold on illumination rounds has been lifted. Over. This is Perry Beer 5-0. Roger. Out.